Hi, today we are going to talk about program flow control in Python. So, a control flow is the order in which a program executes. Sometimes statements of code need to be executed if some or the other condition is fulfilled, and if the condition is not fulfilled, then another program or block of code needs to be executed. Sometimes some data needs to be searched or compared with other data, and then it needs to be edited or printed out or worked upon. For all this, there are three main things in Python that are useful to control the program flow. These are the if statement, the while loop, and the for loop. So let's look at the basic syntax for each of these and then a few examples. This module will also be filled with challenges so that you can improve upon your knowledge and use these statements in them. Okay, so let's move on to the if statement. You have used if extensively in Excel, so I don't need to tell you what it's about, but here's the syntax. So you have to put if and then some condition here, colon, and the statement here below it. Now keep in mind that whatever statement that you want to execute, if the condition is true, okay, that has to be put with an indent inside here. Let me just show you. So your if is in this line, okay, it's in the line of, let's say, the start of the program. Okay, this is very bad. Okay, your block has to be one tab space, or maybe basically an indent inside this. Okay, so if this is true, this statement is going to run. Okay, else if some other expression is true, this statement is going to run. Okay, now you need to keep a track of how if and else if both are in the same line, and how these statements are indented, but again they are in the same straight line. Else if some other statement is going to run, and finally else if none of these statements are true, this statement is going to run. Okay, now obviously if you don't have else if or else, all these are optional. Okay, only if and the statement is mandatory once you start with the if statement. Now there are three things that you have to remember. The first thing is this colon. Okay, it has to be there after your condition. Then the statement needs to be indented. Okay, the statement that is your block which needs to be executed if the condition is true, that needs to be indented. Okay, and the elif and else statements are optional. So, after having seen this syntax, I'm sure that some of you must have understood and some of you must be pretty confused. So, let's look at the example in Spider. So, I've started a new program in Spider. Okay. Now, let me use from everything that we've learned so far. Okay. I'm using if, I'm using input and strings. Okay. So first we'll apply this entire if logic in strings. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are going to ask the user to input their name and their age. Okay. And we are going to then check the age for some condition, and then we are going to print some output. Okay. So that's what we are going to do. You have to focus more on the syntax. So I'm defining a variable name, okay, which is inputted by the user. Please enter your name. So whatever the user enters after please enter your name goes in the variable name. Then we will take this and we'll ask a second question. How old are you? and then we use a placeholder dot format, and in this we are going to put name, obviously, right? So first it's going to ask the user's name and put that in the variable name. Then it's going to ask the user how old are you, and it's going to put that in the format name. Now let's print the age. Okay, let's run this just for the time being. Okay, and see whether it's working. What is your name? Janak. What is your age? 33. 33. Okay, now there is a problem here. Okay, that is this. If I were to print the type of age, okay, it should you want it to be an integer, but it's gonna be a type string. Okay, so let's see this. Okay, so 33 is a string. Okay, so obviously if you were to run an if statement on this comparing with a number, you need to first make it an integer. Okay, now how are you going to do it? You're going to use the int method, okay, and convert this entire thing into an integer. Now let's see if it works. Enter your name, Janak. How old are you? Janak, 33. Class int. Okay, so now the variable age is an integer. I can now check for a few conditions. So if age is greater than or equal to colon. Okay, so if you remember our syntax, if expression colon. Okay, then when I do this, okay, my if is starting from the first from the start of this row. Okay, but my block is going to be an indentation inside, so this much gap inside it's gonna start. So once I press enter out here, you see my block, it's starting inside. It's gonna print something. If my age is above 18, it's gonna print you can vote. Okay, and if it's less than 18, obviously, so for this I'll just use a plain vanilla else statement. Okay, it's gonna print. Now again, else is in the line of if. Okay, I use the colon here. Again, when I press a enter after the colon, so the print statement that comes after else, so the print that has to get executed if the else is true, okay, is in line with this. It's in line with this print statement, the inner print statement. But it's gonna be executed only if the else is true. Else, it's gonna print come back after some. Okay, dot format. Now what is something? Something is 18 minus age, right? So now if I run this program, enter your name, Janak, age, you can vote. And now if I run this, enter your name, Janak, how old, come back after 10 years. So this program runs perfectly now. So we have used if statement with strings. Okay, now let's use if with lists. Okay, for that let me just oh, there's a mistake here. Let me just comment this out now. Now we are using it with lists. So now using if statement in lists. Okay, for this I'm going to take one of our old lists, okay, stock list, which we had created in the list section. Okay, I'm gonna add a few stocks to this. Maybe some sugar company, rice company, then okay, so this is a list of a few stocks that I've created. Okay, now we have to check if a particular stock is there in the portfolio, then it's a good portfolio. Okay, else if some other stock is there, then it's definitely a bad portfolio. Okay, and else it's a neutral portfolio. Okay, so let's start with the code. If okay, I want to I would say if tell me some really good stock. Okay, if Coal India in list. Okay, so here I'm using in. If you remember, in is our membership operator. It checks the members of a list. Okay, so if Coal India in list, okay, print, it's a good portfolio. Okay, so now if Coal India is not there in this, okay, it can be a bad portfolio, but it can be a neutral portfolio also. So let's check if Renuka Sugar in list print is surely a bad. Again, I've forgotten to put quotations here. Okay, yeah, and else print neutral portfolio. Okay, so now I made a spelling mistake here. There you go. Again, check the syntax. If statement colon, the block is in an after an indent, the print block is after this indent. Else if, elif, again this is in line of the if statement. Again you've got your condition, okay, colon, then you have to leave a gap and print this. Else you have to do this, right? Now let's check if this is gonna run. It's surely a bad portfolio. Why? Because Renuka Sugar is there in the portfolio and Coal India is not there in the portfolio. Right? Now, if I were to do away with this, okay, and then if I were to run this, it's gonna say neutral portfolio. Okay, so this is how you can use if statement with lists. Okay, just an example. There may be many other ways you can use if and for combined, if and while combined, all those things. We'll work on those things, but this is your basic using if statement with list wala example. Now instead of list, if this were a tuple, okay, we would still, it is still valid. Okay, if I were to make this stock list as a tuple, okay, and then run, it's still gonna give me the same output. Okay, so you use the if statement in a similar manner whether it is a list or a tuple. Okay, so that is that. Now let's try, let's make a dictionary. Okay, and use if statements with the dictionary. So let's begin using if with dictionaries. Okay, so now if you remember the membership operator in, okay, the in that you use out here, in dictionaries it is used to check whether a key exists in a dictionary or not. Okay, so just a moment. Okay, let me create a dictionary, dict1. Okay, and let me make it a dictionary of a few shares. Okay, the key is the symbol. Okay, and the value is the price, comma, the quantity that a user is holding of that share. Okay, so Tata Chem price 140 and he's holding 4,000 shares. Then we have Adani Ent. Okay, price is again 180 and he's holding 2,000 shares. And then there is again the price is 29 rupees and he's holding 20,000 shares. So this is a typical dictionary. Okay, now where have I made a mistake in this dictionary? This is a value, again key value, showing invalid syntax. Let me check. Okay, it's a stupid mistake. I've put colon out here instead of comma. So it's 29 rupees, comma 20,000 shares. So now if I were to run this, okay, it's running. Obviously I've not printed out anything. That's why this is the problem. So let's print dict1 perfectly. Now, once we have this dictionary, okay, I want to sell my shares of Adani. So make quantity as 0. Okay. I want to sell all my Adani shares and therefore I make its quantity as 0. So what I'll do is if Adani Ent, okay, wait. In dict1, then if Adani Ent is there in dict1, okay, then what I'll do is dict1 Adani Ent, okay. If I do this, it will print the list of Adani Ent. Okay, let's do this stepwise. So let's do print this. So it's gonna print 180 and 2000. Okay, but I want to change this. How do I change this? Dict1. So instead of printing, what I'm gonna do is dict1 Adani Ent and value 180 is 0 and 2000 is 1. Okay, if you were to index. So I'm going to print 1, okay, is equal to, and I'm going to make it 0. Why? Because I want to make that value 0. Okay, that's all that I want to do. I want to change this 2000 shares that I have to 0 shares. Why? Because I sold it. Now when I do print dict1, it should show me the updated Adani Ent values. Okay, so let's see. There you go, 180 and 0. So as simple as that. I could have straight away done this, okay, and obtained my answer. Why have I put if this here? Okay, because if that share is not there in the portfolio, it will give me an error. That is why. Okay, so here I can ask user that which enter the code of the share that you want to sell. I can take an from the user. That now if that share is in dict1, okay, share 1 is equal to. So this will now, instead of making Adani end, it'll do that for any share. So if the share is not there, it's not going to give me an error. Okay. So it will say else print share not present in portfolio. Okay, so now if I were to run this, enter the code of the share that you want to sell. If I say put National Aluminium, okay, it's gonna it put share not present in the portfolio. Why did it do that? Let's try rectifying this error. Let's print the share. Okay. And let's print the dictionary only if it has been edited. So I'll put it in this block. Okay. Now let me see where the error lies. Enter the code of, and there it worked. For Reliance at 900 0. Okay, so why did it not work for National Aluminium? Let's try that. Enter the code of the share that you want to sell. Nat Alum. So I don't know what the mistake was, but it's running. So I think I must have added a spacebar or something before entering the share name or something like that. Another thing is all these codes are in uppercase. So if I want the input to by default be upper, okay, I can just put dot upper. Let's see if this works. There, it worked. So this is how you use if statement in a dictionary, okay, and okay, let's try putting a value which is not there in the portfolio. Let's see what happens. Let me put Tata Motors. Share not present in the portfolio. There you go. So this is how you use if statements in the dictionary. If I had tried putting straight away the share value and if it wasn't there in the portfolio, it would have shown me an error. If I do an if else statement here, instead of the error, it's showing me a nice print statement that it's not present in the portfolio. That's how we use if statements with dictionaries. So this was extensively about using if statements with strings, lists, tuples and dictionary. Hope you guys understood the session. And never forget the syntax, that is if condition colon, then you have an indented block of statements that you want to run, and then you go back to else colon, else is in line with the if, okay, and then again the condition is in an indented block that you want to see. So this is how you run if statements. I suggest you practice for yourself also, and we will see you in the next session where we'll talk about the while statement.